Welcome back to Hopetales, the home of real stories of courage, hope, and ordinary people doing extraordinary things. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. She was just a cabin crew trainee, but that day, 35,000 feet above the ground, she noticed something no one else did. And it would save a child's life. The early morning sun stretched across the runway, reflecting off the polished fuselage of Flight QF-721. A Boeing 787 bound for London. Passengers trickled through the terminal, some sipping coffee, others scrolling through phones, all unaware that this flight would soon become anything but routine. Among the staff moving briskly through the terminal was Sarah, a 19-year-old cabin crew trainee. Her uniform was crisp, her shoes polished, and her eyes wide with the nervous excitement of a young professional embarking on her first international assignment. She had completed her training with flying colors, but had never faced the realities of a live flight. Today, her instincts would be tested in ways no training manual could prepare her for. As she boarded the plane, Sarah meticulously checked each aisle, ensuring everything was in order. Seats were aligned, tray tables locked, overhead bins closed. She greeted passengers politely, offering assistance with luggage and seating. Most ignored her. She was just a trainee. After all, but a few smiled at her enthusiasm. As she walked toward the rear of the cabin, Sarah noticed a man sitting near the emergency exit row. He was dressed neatly in a dark jacket, sunglasses despite the indoor lighting, and a subtle smirk that didn't match his otherwise calm demeanor. Something about him felt off. Her gut told her to watch him, though she didn't yet know why. The plane filled steadily. A family with a crying infant settled a few rows ahead. Business travelers adjusted their laptops and earphones. Tourists chatted excitedly about their upcoming holiday. Through it all, Sarah kept one eye on the man near the exit row, whose movements seemed calculated, reaching for the overhead bin, placing his hand near a small black case that he kept tightly clutched to his chest. Sarah's training flashed through her mind. Always observe, always anticipate. Cabin crew are trained to notice behavior, not just comply with protocols. She cataloged his subtle gestures, the way he scanned the cabin, the slight tension in his shoulders, the rapid blink of his eyes. Every detail screamed that he wasn't just another passenger. Boarding was completed, and the plane taxied slowly toward the runway. Sarah took her assigned position in the aisle near the rear of the aircraft, ostensibly attending to passenger comfort, but really keeping watch on the man. Every step, every smile she gave passengers, she measured carefully, all the while mentally noting his subtle shifts. Minutes into the flight, the cabin lights dimmed as the plane ascended. Passengers relaxed, pulling out devices or closing their eyes for a nap. Sarah's attention never wavered. She noticed how the man adjusted his seatbelt in a way that seemed rehearsed, almost practiced. The small black case he had carried earlier was now hidden beneath his seat, and he frequently glanced toward a young girl seated a few rows away, no older than 10. Clutching a small backpack and looking around nervously. Sarah's heart skipped. Something clicked. The child was alone and the man was watching her. Not casually, but with intent. Her training became instinct. She approached subtly, asking the child if she was comfortable, if she needed water, anything to make her feel safe. The girl's timid nod confirmed that she was scared. Sarah kept a gentle tone, her presence a shield. Meanwhile, the man continued to act normal, reading, adjusting his seat, occasionally glancing toward the galley. But Sarah noticed patterns. Every time a passenger turned around, he seemed to adjust his plan, like a predator navigating a crowded jungle. She discreetly moved closer to the rear galley, her mind racing through all scenarios she had studied. What to do if a passenger tried to access the emergency exit? What to do if someone attempted to take a child? How to respond without alarming the entire cabin? Hours passed and the plane reached cruising altitude. The cabin lights were dimmed for passenger comfort. Sarah maintained vigilance, subtly keeping the man in her peripheral vision. Then she noticed the child shift uneasily, glancing nervously toward the man. He leaned slightly forward, whispering something, and the girl flinched. Sarah's instincts told her something critical. She needed to act, but carefully. She couldn't alert the entire cabin yet. Panic at 35,000 feet could be catastrophic. She had to contain the situation discreetly until the right moment. Her training gave her a plan, Maintain calm, monitor the suspect closely, and wait for the precise moment to intervene. Every move had to be calculated, every action measured. The man retrieved a small vial from his pocket, invisible to casual observers, and slid it toward the child's seat when she wasn't looking. Sarah's eyes caught the subtle glint and her heart raced. She needed to position herself without alarming him. She casually walked down the aisle, offering water to another passenger, and as she passed the child, she leaned slightly and whispered gently, "Are you okay?" The girl's eyes widened, relief flashing. Sarah subtly touched the man's shoulder as she passed, a small, strategic move to signal her awareness. The man's subtle smirk faltered. He realized he had been noticed. His calculated behavior now showed tension. Sarah didn't panic. She stayed composed, her presence alone beginning to disrupt his plan. The plane hummed steadily through the sky, passengers oblivious, as a quiet war of wits unfolded in the rear cabin. Sarah's vigilance, patience, and intuition became a shield between danger and hundreds of innocent lives. By the time the cabin crew service carts were returning, Sarah had successfully positioned herself between the child and the man, her hands ready, eyes sharp. Every detail was noted, every potential escape route mapped in her mind. She was not just a trainee anymore, she was the first line of defense. The hours of flight ahead were tense but silent. Sarah continued monitoring the man, ensuring the child remained calm, and preparing for the moment when action would be required. The stakes could not have been higher. One wrong move could cause panic. One unnoticed action could result in disaster. And yet, despite the fear, a quiet determination filled Sarah's heart. She would not allow harm to come to this child or the passengers. She would act, and she would succeed. The cabin settled into its quiet rhythm as Flight QF-721 cut smoothly through the sky. Meal trays clinked softly, passengers scrolled through screens, and the distant hum of engines filled the silence. But for Sarah, nothing felt calm. Every few minutes, her gaze drifted toward the suspicious man in the emergency exit row. The way he sat rigid, eyes hidden behind dark glasses, hands resting too casually on his knees, it all felt rehearsed. Like he was waiting. The little girl, 2 rows ahead, seemed even more uneasy now. She shifted in her seat, hugging her backpack, eyes darting between the man and the window. She looked like someone trying not to be noticed, and failing. Sarah's instincts sharpened. She moved through the cabin on the pretext of clearing empty cups, keeping her posture relaxed but her mind alert. Every detail mattered at 35,000 feet. Every small clue could be the difference between safety and a crisis. As she passed the suspicious man, she saw it, that same black case from earlier. He had nudged it deeper under his seat, almost hidden now. Most passengers would have missed it, but Sarah didn't. She continued forward and paused at row 19, pretending to reach into an overhead bin. From this angle, she saw something else. The man wasn't just glancing toward the child, he was studying her, watching every movement, every shift in her posture. A chill crawled up Sarah's spine. This wasn't random. This wasn't coincidence. This was a pattern. She recalled parts of her training. How traffickers behave, how abductors monitor children, how danger hides behind normal faces. But no training video had ever felt as real as this moment. The girl's behavior worried her even more. She wasn't crying. She wasn't calling anyone. But her eyes, they were full of fear, real fear. And fear was something children couldn't hide. Sarah approached her again, this time offering a warm smile. She gently asked if the child needed anything. The girl's small nod was polite, but the way her fingers trembled on her backpack told Sarah exactly what she needed to know. She wasn't traveling with family. She wasn't traveling with anyone she trusted. She was alone, and the man knew it. Sarah walked to the rear galley, her heartbeat pounding in her ears. Should she inform the senior crew? Yes, but she needed more evidence. At this altitude, panic could spread faster than turbulence. She needed to be absolutely sure. As she reviewed the passenger manifest on her tablet, her eyes widened. The little girl's name was listed. Her seat number was listed. Her age was listed. But the accompanying guardian field was blank. That was impossible. Airlines never allow a minor to board an international flight alone without proper documentation and escort. Something was wrong. Sarah continued scrolling. Then she found a detail that froze her. Completely. The man's name wasn't anywhere near the girl's booking. He didn't buy tickets together. He wasn't traveling with her. But earlier, he had whispered to her. Sarah's breath caught. She went back into the cabin, moving slowly, scanning every detail with a sharpened mind. The man now sat perfectly still, hands folded neatly as though he sensed that someone was watching too closely. His calmness screamed danger. Sarah circled the cabin one more time, and then something new caught her eye. A tiny slip of paper, barely visible, sticking out from the man's pocket. She only saw it for a second while passing him, but the glimpse was enough to startle her. It was a passport-sized photo of a child. The same child. Her stomach tightened. Now everything clicked, the girl's fear, his monitoring, the hidden black case, the blank guardian field in the manifest. This wasn't just a suspicious passenger. This was an abduction in progress. Mid-air, inside a sealed aircraft with nowhere to run. Sarah moved back to the galley, her hands slightly trembling but her resolve hardening. She had to alert the senior crew now, but she also had to ensure that the man didn't panic or force an early move. One wrong step and he could become violent. One wrong signal and the child could be harmed. As Sarah steadied herself, the aircraft lights dimmed slightly for rest time. Passengers pulled blankets around themselves. The cabin grew quieter. This was the moment predators chose, when attention was low, when crew were distracted, when the hum of the engines hid sudden movements. Sarah returned to the aisle with deliberate calm. The man leaned slightly, checking the aisle, scanning for the right second to act. His fingers tapped rhythmically on the hidden case. A nervous tell. His opportunity was coming, and Sarah's window to stop him was closing. She positioned herself between him and the child again. Not obviously, just close enough to block any movement. Close enough to watch. Close enough to intervene. Every second stretched. Every breath felt heavier. Every instinct inside her screamed, something is going to happen. And it's going to happen soon. Sarah reached into her uniform pocket and pressed the silent crew alert button, a small device that notified the senior cabin crew without making a sound. Her message was simple. Watch row 22 and row 19, potential child abduction. Now she waited, alone, between danger and innocence, her body steady, her heartbeat defiant. The trainee was no longer just a trainee. The real confrontation was about to begin, and in part 3, everything will explode. The turbulence had finally settled, but inside the aircraft, a different kind of storm was forming. Alina stood frozen near the galley, her heart thundering, her thoughts racing, her training battling her fear. She had pieced together every sign, every detail, every moment since boarding. And now she knew the truth. The man wasn't traveling with the boy. He was transporting him, against his will, somewhere, for something dark. Alina tried to breathe normally, but her instincts wouldn't let her relax. Every step the man took, every glance he threw, every time the boy flinched, it all confirmed the same chilling reality. The captain's request had just come through. A report had arrived from ground staff in 2 different cities. A missing boy matching the same description. Age, height, clothes, the terrified look, everything aligned. And now the boy was right here, at 36,000 feet, trapped between strangers and clouds. Alina felt the weight of responsibility pressed down on her chest. She was not a senior crew member, not experienced, not even fully certified, but she was the only one who had noticed, the only one who had connected the dots, and now, the only one standing close enough to take action before they landed. She approached the aisle slowly, pretending to check seat belts. Her eyes locked onto the boy. His hands were trembling, his breathing uneven, his eyes silently pleading. And then she noticed something new. A mark on his wrist, faint, red, like someone had held him too tight. The man sitting beside him stiffened immediately when he saw her looking. His jaw tightened. His shoulders tensed. His hand subtly moved toward his bag on the floor. Something inside him shifted. He knew. He had realized she was onto him. For the first time since the flight took off, the predator felt cornered. Alina didn't move, didn't blink. Didn't look away. She just stood there, small, young, inexperienced, but unwavering. The man leaned slightly forward, blocking her view of the boy, a warning in his posture, a silent threat. But the boy, The boy gathered every bit of courage left in his tiny body. Very slowly, very quietly. He shook his head. Not toward the man, toward her. It was a plea. A whisper without words. "Help me!" And that was it. Alina's fear melted away. Her doubt gone. Her hesitation gone. Now there was only one thought in her mind. If she didn't act now, he might never be saved. She walked toward the cockpit, calm on the outside, storming on the inside. The senior crew turned to her, shocked at her pale face, her trembling hands. She didn't waste a second. She reported everything, every detail, every suspicion, every sign she had observed from the boarding gate to the sky. The captain listened in heavy silence. Then he issued instructions immediately, discreet, precise, urgent. The aircraft became a silent battlefield. Cabin crew moved slowly through the aisle under the guise of routine checks, each one subtly positioning themselves in key spots. Passengers remained unaware. The engines hummed steadily. The lights glowed softly. But beneath the peaceful atmosphere, a rescue operation was beginning. Alina was tasked with staying closest to the boy. She nodded, took a breath, stepped back into the aisle. As she approached the seat again, the man's eyes tracked her sharply. He knew something was happening. He tightened his grip on the boy's arm. He shifted the bag slightly closer. His muscles grew tense, ready. And then, a sudden drop. A small turbulence jolt. For everyone else, it was nothing. But for him, it was panic, loss of control, a moment of exposure. He reached for the bag, too fast. Too aggressively. Alina reacted instantly. She dropped her serving cloth, bent forward, pretending to pick it up, blocking his movement. Her sudden closeness forced him to pull his arm back. Her eyes flicked inside the bag for a split second. What she saw froze her blood. A metal object's handle, half hidden, shiny. Not a weapon, but something worse at 36,000 feet. A restraint tool. Her body chilled. Her heartbeat hammered. But her face stayed neutral, pretending she saw nothing. The man realized she had glimpsed it. His expression twisted. Cold, sharp, dangerous. He leaned forward, whispering something to the boy. But the boy shrank away. For the first time, fear flashed across the kidnapper's face. He was losing control. Of the boy, of the situation, of the flight. Alina stood back and watched. She was not allowed to confront him yet. Her job was to monitor, to wait, to be ready. Every second stretched like wire. Every breath felt heavier. Then it happened. The man suddenly stood up. Fast, too fast, and grabbed the boy's arm. Passengers turned, startled. The senior crew stepped forward immediately. But they were far. Alina was closest. And in that moment, the moment that would define the fate of the boy, and the destiny of the flight, and the courage she never knew she had, she stepped between them. Small body, shaking hands, fear screaming inside. But she didn't move aside. The man glared at her, a predator facing an unexpected shield. Alina stood firm. Behind her, the boy whispered a silent breath of hope. And at 36,000 feet above the clouds, a cabin crew trainee became someone's only chance at survival. Chaos didn't explode all at once. It unfolded slowly, like a fire creeping through dry grass, unstoppable once it truly ignited. The moment Alina stepped between the man and the boy, the air inside the aircraft changed. Passengers sensed danger they didn't understand. Crew members took their positions silently. Engines hummed on, steady and unaware of the human battle happening within the cabin. The man's eyes were no longer the cold, calculated ones she had seen earlier. Now they were desperate, cornered, dangerous. He tightened his grip on the boy's arm, pulling him closer as if afraid the child might slip away. Alina stood still, her breath caught in her throat, but her feet rooted to the floor. She wasn't trained for high-risk confrontations. She had never faced a criminal. But she knew one thing. She could not step aside. Not now, not ever. Behind her, the senior crew moved closer in a slow, coordinated pattern, closing the trap quietly, inch by inch. The captain had already alerted authorities on the ground. Priority clearance for landing. Emergency response crew waiting. Every second mattered. But the man sensed something was wrong. His gaze darted around, toward the cockpit door, toward the rear galley, toward the curious passengers who were beginning to rise from their seats. He was losing control, and he knew it. His hand moved again toward the bag. Alina's chest tightened. She remembered what she had seen inside. Not a weapon, but enough to restrain the child. Enough to transport him. Enough to prevent escape. Not again. She took one small step forward. Between him and the boy, her heart pounding, her legs trembling, her voice silent but unbroken. The man's nostrils flared. His jaw clenched. He tried to move around her, fast. But she blocked him again. This time, passengers gasped. The aircraft felt like a pressure chamber. Silent, heavy, electrified. A senior crew member gave the signal. Subtle. Precise. The plan was simple. Distract him. Block his movement. Secure the child. Restrain him until landing. Simple. But only if he stayed calm. He didn't. Suddenly, like a triggered instinct, the man grabbed the boy and tried to push past Alina. His movement was rough, forceful, panicked. The boy yelped, stumbling. And Alina did something she never thought she'd have the courage to do. She physically intervened. Her hands shot forward, grabbing the boy's shoulders, shielding him with her small frame as she stepped backward, pulling him away from the man's grip. The man lunged. Passengers screamed. The aircraft jolted, slightly, a pocket of turbulence shaking. The cabin in the worst possible moment. It was chaos, raw, unfiltered. But Alina didn't let go. Her arms wrapped around the trembling boy, shielding him completely. The man reached out again, but this time he was blocked. Two senior crew members intercepted him, grabbing his arms. Another passenger stood up to assist, overpowering the struggling criminal. He thrashed wildly, his eyes burning with rage, but he was outnumbered. His last attempt failed. The boy was pulled away. Alina held him tight. The man was forced into a seat, his arms restrained with cabin safety straps, his rage caged between two trained crew and a vigilant passenger. The cabin was trembling, but not from turbulence. From fear, from shock, from the realization of how close they had come to disaster. But then something shifted, something warm, something hopeful. The boy looked up, eyes filled with fear and gratitude, and clung to Alina's uniform with tiny hands, as if she was the only safe place left in the world. And for him, she was. The senior crew confirmed the man was secured. The captain made a calm announcement that masked the severity of the incident. Passengers slowly settled, whispering prayers, wiping tears, shaking in disbelief. Alina guided the boy to a quiet seat away from the man. She wrapped him in a blanket, gave him water, checked his breathing, and stayed right beside him the entire time. Not as a trainee, not as staff, but as the only person he trusted. The boy whispered something, barely audible. But Alina understood the emotion behind it. Relief, safety, freedom. Minutes later, the captain announced descent. The runway lights of the destination. City shimmered beneath the clouds like a promise. Emergency vehicles lined up below, waiting. As the aircraft landed, the boy's body relaxed for the first time. His grip loosened. His breathing steadied. The danger was over. When the aircraft door opened, authorities boarded immediately. The restrained man was escorted out, his eyes hollow, his plan destroyed, his freedom gone. The boy was taken gently by child protection officers. But before they left, he turned around, seeking one last moment, one last connection. Alina smiled softly, not as a hero, not as someone extraordinary, just as someone who couldn't walk away. He reached out. She knelt down. He hugged her, quietly, tightly, with all the emotion he didn't have words for. And in that embrace, everything became clear. Some heroes don't wear badges. They don't make headlines. They don't wait for recognition. Sometimes, a trainee, a learner, a newcomer, becomes the one who saves a life. When the passengers finally disembarked, many paused to thank her. Some with teary eyes, some with shaky voices, some with trembling hands still processing what they witnessed. But Alina stood humble, shy, almost overwhelmed. She hadn't acted for praise. She acted because no one else did. Because sometimes the bravest acts come from the most unexpected people. Hours later, after statements, reports, and chaos ended, the captain approached her with a rare expression, half pride, half disbelief. He told her something she would remember for the rest of her life. Today, you didn't do the job of a trainee. You did the job of a protector. And somewhere in that moment, in that quiet, exhausted smile she gave, Alina realized something she had never felt before. Hope is contagious, courage is silent, and one person, just one, can change the fate of another forever. The boy was saved. The passengers were safe. The sky carried them home. And Alina, the cabin crew trainee no one noticed, became the reason 289 souls believed in heroes again.